I awoke suddenly, confused as to why I was awake when it was still dark outside. As my brain began to function, I realized that I had woken up to the sound of the portal springing to life. I rushed outside to find another traveler waiting for me. They seemed jovial and friendly, but appearances can be deceiving. So when they waved towards the portal, I decided to check the coordinate panel first. Imagine my surprise when I realized they'd entered the same coordinates I'd found last night. Who were they? How did they know where I was going next? With some reluctance, mixed with excitement for what I would find at the other end, I entered the portal. Even though I entered the portal first, somehow the other traveler was there waiting for me when I exited. Who are you? Why are you here? The stranger ignored any and all questions I threw at them and simply gestured at a nearby plateau. I had felt the pull from the second I had stepped out of the portal, so I knew what I would see as I turned in the direction they had indicated. Sure enough, atop the plateau was a collection of suspended prefabs. I jumped in my ship and flew over. As I got closer, I realized the prefabs were close enough to the ground that they could be reached by jetpack. However, none of them had exterior entrances. The only way in seemed to be through SRTs on the ground of the plateau. Upon landing and exiting my ship, I noticed the SRTs were each a different color. Could this be a clue as to how to solve them? After a bit of trial and error, I managed to find my way into the treasure room. I accessed the message beacon and grabbed some treasure for my trouble, then left the same way I came in. Upon exiting, there was no sign the other traveler had even been there. Had they been a figment of my imagination? Or something manifested by the temples? Puzzles within puzzles, how exhilarating! I returned to my home base, immediately entered the new coordinates, and headed back through the portal. Upon exiting the portal, I was immediately enveloped in a storm of incredible power. Visibility was next to nothing, but I didn't need to see in order to follow the pull. It was strong right out the portal, and I quickly found the next temple. The storm made visibility very tough, but I could make out walkways over water leading up to a large structure. I jetpacked up to the structure and found an unpowered SRT outside next to a sphere generator. Along the walkways, there were floor switches. The walkways had missing railings. This was going to make things tough. After more time than I care to admit passed with me pushing a damn sphere along walkways, I finally managed to get it to where I needed and activated the SRT I found at first. The SRT took me to another treasure room. After checking the message beacon and helping myself to some treasure, I headed back to the portal. Back at my home base, I entered the new portal coordinates and headed through. Although I exited the portal into a hexagonal exotic biome, my initial thrill faded immediately as I realized the pull was very faint. Definitely not from this planet. Oh well, I'll have to come back at some other time and look for more hexplate bushes for my collection. I climbed into my fighter and took off, headed towards the source of the pull. As I entered the atmosphere of the new planet, I noticed it was a swamp planet, and that was about all I had time for before a storm nearly as vicious as the one on the previous planet roared in. I glimpsed the landing pad guidance circles and managed to land without mishap. As I got out of my ship and into the teeth of the storm, I thought I saw some sort of structure at the top of a nearby hill. The pull was coming from this direction, and when I reached the top of the hill, I found an old, decrepit structure with holes in the floor. Upon dropping through a hole, I found the building had been built over an ancient cave system. Nice! Time for more spelunking! After wandering through another amazing cave system, I found another treasure room. After recording the portal coordinates and helping myself to treasure, I headed back to the portal and returned to my home base. As I began to input the next set of portal coordinates, I wondered, how many more destinations would I have to go to? Would this ever end? Or had my curiosity finally gotten me caught in a trap? A never-ending search for meaning in an ultimately meaningless scroll. With this troubling thought rattling around in my brain, I headed through the portal to my 9th destination. As I came through the portal, the pull was again very faint, so I hopped into my fighter and headed into space. As I pulsed towards another planet, the pull became stronger, so I knew I was on the right track. I landed on a planet with white grass and huge valleys. I landed at a couple landing pads, and once I got out, I noticed that things in the distance looked vastly different from those close up. These chameleon planets are some of my favorites. I headed towards the pull, and very shortly started seeing random floor panels floating in the air. Shit, this was going to require more jetpack parkour. After several very close calls, I finally made it to the top and into the treasure room. After my usual steps of collecting the portal coordinates and grabbing some shinies, I headed back through the portal and to my home base. Once I got back to the ice planet, I decided to go to one more destination before I called it a night. As the next planet took shape around me, the pull was once again faint, but stronger than the previous two. As I got into space, I realized this was because the pull was coming from a planet very close to the portal planet. Once I hit the atmosphere, I realized it was a volcanic planet. As I landed, I realized the source of the pull was a sentinel pillar. Being very careful to avoid upsetting the sentinels, I scouted the area. I found an SRT at the top of the pillar that was unpowered, and after looking further, managed to power it. Going through, I found myself in another treasure room. I collected the portal coordinates, grabbed some baubles, and then headed back to the portal. Once back at my home base, I decided to get more sleep. As I drifted off, my mind was wandering. Would I ever find the end of this rabbit hole? Or would my curiosity remain forever unsated? Only time will tell.